You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
News, views, security stories, technology, and all sorts of other related chit-chat that catches our attention. Welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode. And we've got a little bit of a story to tell you in a minute. I was talking to Nick, who is joining me for this episode. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Simon. Good to be back.
Yeah, and we were talking, about what we were going to discuss, and we were talking about Apple TV. And whilst that was happening, I got a text from Cutie Melon saying that the Apple TV app would not let her in with, the password she had, and was it correct, and so on and so forth. So I said, yes, that's correct. So I went to the Apple ID site and entered the details for the account for the Apple TV, our App Store account, and it let me in. And then I got a thing saying it's been locked, no doubt because it was not recognising Qt attempting to unlock the Apple TV. And this is something I've talked about before, with this thing where Apple's ID server suddenly stops recognising your password, even though it was perfectly fine and you've entered it from the keychain, and it just won't have it. And it happened, I don't know, not long ago, actually, it certainly happened to my boy the other day. Now it's happened again to the account we use for the App Store and iTunes and all that. So I thought, we're going to have to do the whole rigmarole. So I just went to the Apple ID site again, and it said your account has been locked for security purposes, which previously is always a right fag, because it says you have to reset your password. Somebody at Apple must be listening, because when I did all the dance of entering the account, verifying my, the security phone number, getting the verification code, putting that in, it then said your account is unlocked. And now normally that will say you must now enter a new password, which, as I just said to Nick, is why a lot of my passwords have ended up with variations of why don't you bloody well remember it. But now it comes up with two buttons: unlock my account and unlock my account and set a new password. That's new. That is completely new. That's come up in the last couple of days, which is great, because in the case where it's refusing to take your password, you don't have to reset your password and then go round altering it on all your devices, which is a relief, to be honest, because otherwise sometimes you got in a loop. You'd have to come up with password after password. So there you go. Whether or not Cutie Melon is now into the Apple TV, I don't know until I speak to her later. But there we go.
It's one of the problems we run into now, isn't it, with the complexity of security. I mean, we all want to be secure, and one of the complications of that is that password resetting. And I think I told you the last time I spoke to you about the problems I have using First Direct as a bank, because I only use them occasionally. I only use it as a savings account, and so I only log in once in a blue moon. And when I do, I always forget what the passwords are, and I end up having to ring them up. And then it's even more complicated, because you're supposed to have two separate passwords, and then you've got all this ID stuff that you're supposed to have on top of that, and I can never remember any of it. So it always takes about 2 hours to actually just get into the account.
You have to verify everything, and
yeah,
I know.
It's a bit of a pain.
It is. I mean, obviously, my boy's only 10 years old, so quite often, it'll be, Dad, I can't get into this, that, or the other. What's your password? I don't know. So I go to my notes and I'll, get my keychain out and I look, and then I'll find there's half a dozen different passwords for different things, and oh Lord, and then it's like, to verify, we need to send a text to your phone, and it's like, but I haven't got that phone anymore, Dad. I've got a new one with a new number. It's like, oh, lordy. Luckily,
while we were at it as well, I mean, we were also talking, weren't we, about that really, I mean, Apple ought to sort out its accounts thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The fact that most people probably in the whole world have all got more than one Apple account and would really like just to have one.
Just the
But
one.
there's
I mean,
no way of doing it.
I'm quite lucky in that I only ever created one, and as I said before, when Apple offered the option to change the email address associated with that account, I changed it from my Google mail address because I stopped using Google, and changed to iCloud, and it gave me the dire warning: if you change to iCloud, you'll never be able to change the associated email ever again. If you change to another third party, you can change it. I'm not sure you can change it at whim, but you can change it a couple of times a year, I think. So, anyway, but I opted. No, I'm going to go with my iCloud because it's for Apple, and I'm never going to not have the Apple iCloud, email address, whether it's my primary account or not. But yes, I mean, my son has got two Apple IDs, one tied to his Google account, one tied to his iCloud account. I've tried to get him to not use the Google one because you find you'll find one device is signed into one and one is signed into the other, and then the passwords don't match, and why isn't it syncing? And it's a nightmare.
It is.
I mean,
I'm sure a lot of people have the same problem, and it's
and Apple can't merge them.
It shouldn't be beyond the wit of Apple, I'm sure, to be able to do that. And,
I mean,
just get verification from you that that's what you want to do, especially because quite often I've ended up buying most of the stuff on one account, but I have actually bought one or two other things on the other account as well. So I've now got two things which are two different email addresses against them. It's just a mess. It's just a bit of a mess, and they just need to sort it out.
Long before Apple started family sharing as an option, we decided a long time ago, because my wife was the one who'd bought stuff on iTunes and the like, that we would use her Apple ID as the one that we used to purchase stuff from iTunes or the App Store or whatever, which of course does have the added complexity that if somebody else, i.e., Cutie Melon or whatever, enters the password incorrectly too many times, that will lock the account. Which is, none of this is great. I also know for a fact that I have some stuff in iTunes I cannot play because it says this machine is not authorized for this content.
Right.
And it brings up an email address from like about 15 years ago from a company that, as far as I'm aware, doesn't even exist anymore. So,
oh dear.
I think my wife's machine can play that content, but at some, probably because it's been authorized. But at some point, when that machine dies, whatever that content is we're going to be locked out
into the ether.
We're not going to be. We'll have it on the hard drive and not be able to play it. It'd be crazy. There we go. Well, that wasn't going to be the main thrust of this show, but there you go. But that is, Tim, if you're listening, sort it out. Sort it out, mate. It's not good. Not a good look.
You make a lot of money. Put some into it. Put some of it into sorting out iCloud rather. iCloud, and particularly iCloud accounts.
iCloud accounts, and the one that frustrates me, it really is this thing where it suddenly decides that your password is wrong. It will just say to you, your iCloud, login is incorrect, and it's like, it's not. It worked yesterday. It worked an hour ago. It worked on my iPhone. Now you're telling me it doesn't work. It is the most frustrating and annoying thing, and you only get about 3 attempts to log in, and then it says your account's locked. I'm assuming that's where they've put this new thing in that you don't have to change the password. Just, I verified who I am. Can you please unlock my account?
Yeah, I mean, that's better, isn't it? Better than it was. Again, we were talking about just before the show started that having these two accounts means that you end up doing things that you wouldn't do if you weren't forced down that route. So I have an account which has almost everything on it, and then I have one account that, just for some reason, I can't remember why originally, it's just my email. So my email is on a different account to all my machines, and which is really annoying. And recently, I got a message from Apple to say, actually, your iCloud storage is filling up. Can you log in on one of your devices and upgrade it? So I'm quite happy to upgrade it, but of course, all my devices are logged into a different account. So I can't remember how I did it. I think I did it on my iMac eventually. It offered me a login so that I could log into the other account and upgrade it. But it shouldn't be that hard.
No, it shouldn't. It should not be that hard. It really shouldn't be that hard. There you go. Right. Well, there we go. That's that one. So, yeah, again.
Yes, rant over.
Sort it out. Well, this week, quite a lot of news, actually. Apple have released the AirPods Pro. In fact, I think a day after Steve and I last week were saying maybe there'll just be a soft launch for those, and indeed there was. Reviewers have gone bonkers over them, saying how wonderful they are.
Yeah, people seem to like them a lot, don't they?
They do really seem to think they're very, very good. I think my point of view
is... They're also very, very expensive.
My point of view was, yes, they might be very good, but at 250 quid, you can keep them. Sorry. I'll stick with my, 15 to 30 quid ones. Thank you. I don't care, noise cancelling or transparency features or not. No. I guess if you use them all the time, I'm sure maybe. But my other problem with that is, they're still only going to last you a couple of years before the batteries clap out.
Yeah. The other thing is as well, I mean, I have got the original AirPods. I eventually, like a lot of these things, I think I'm not paying that. I'm just not going to. Oh, go on then. But I mean, they're really good devices. But yeah, in the end, all I do with them is listen to audio podcasts. I don't even listen to much music on them. So the music quality of them is completely irrelevant.
Exactly.
I'm just listening to low bit streamed audio most of the time.
Yeah, mostly in mono for that. Yeah, compressed audio. Yeah, compressed MP3, low bit rate, mono. Which is why,
which a lot of us geeks are. Let's face it.
Yeah,
we do a lot of listening, mostly to the voice.
I'm quite happy with my, Goodman's ones, which I think were about, cost the person who gave them to me about £30, I think, and before that my Chinese ones, which having not used for a while, I fired up and they seem to still be working. I mean, the batteries in them aren't great, but they're still going. There we go.
That's pretty good, really, because I tried buying some of those, didn't I? But they kept dropping out for me.
I do, yes. So, I did find that they suffered from dropping out, particularly with my Mac. They were better with my phone, strangely.
Oh, right.
And it was mostly my phone I were using them for. Also, of course, quite often I would only use one.
I tended to find that you said that I put them in my ears, and then I put my phone in my pocket, and I'm a fairly shall I say, generously proportioned person.
Built for comfort.
And I think that's right, built for comfort. And therefore, it has to go through an awful lot of me to actually get. So I think it's probably me that makes them drop out more than anything else.
But those cheap ones did suffer from it. Even the Goodman's ones suffer from it. In fact, I'm convinced that the Goodman's one contain exactly the same chip inside them because they have the same
my Apple
woman.
Ones do as well. Like, on occasion, it's a bit weird. There's one particular place when I go out for a walk at lunchtime. So this is in Coventry. If you happen to go through Coventry. I tend to go walking in a. This is going to sound a bit weird. I go walking in a graveyard at lunchtime, basically because it's nice and quiet. There's no one there, just as I'm crossing the road to get to it, it drops out, and it does it in the same place every time. So I'm wondering whether there's some sort of interference.
There's got to be some sort of interference there, hasn't there?
Yeah. Could be coming off a building or I don't know.
It could be an electricity main underneath the road, even giving off a.
Oh, I suppose so. Yeah,
that's the sort of thing that would.
But on the whole, it doesn't. On the whole, they're very, very good.
No, that's one thing I've heard. That is one thing I've heard, that they are very, very good for that. But there we go. So there we go. They've been, been given a lot of love on the internet. That if you're prepared to spend 250 quid on your AirPods Pro,
Go for it. Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to tell anybody what they should do. And let's face it. I guess if you're talking about the more high end of audio, three people often spend £300, £400, £500 on noise cancelling headphones and whatnot. I wouldn't, but that's me.
Yeah.
Because I'm too tight and too poor.
Well, there is that as well. Yes, and I also think that sound quality is very subjective. You sometimes get people who are absolutely obsessive about the sound, and they're so obsessive about the sound they're not really listening to what it is they're listening to. They're more obsessed by the quality of the sound than they are actually enjoying the music that they're listening to or whatever.
Yeah. You get those sort of people. So, the upper bass quarto was slightly muddy, and it's like
that's right. Yeah.
Really,
the middle tones they're very blurry. Yes.
Really.
Whereas for me, if it's just playing and I can hear it and it's not distorted, that's fine.
Yeah. And I mean, my wife bought an Amazon Echo Dot. In fact, we've got two now. The boy has one. Well, the kids have one upstairs. And there's one that's often in the kitchen. And although I'm not a huge fan of it, I mean, I do use it, but mostly I use it when I'm cooking and I say, "Hey, lady, play me Planet Rock," and then it just puts on the Planet Rock radio station. In effect, I use it as a radio.
That's fair enough.
But that's it. I don't ask it to do anything smart or at all, or ask it questions. I just tell it to play music. So it's effectively just and yes, people will say, well, the terrible low-grade sound comes out, which is good enough for me, mate. If it's loud enough for me to hear the thrashing guitars, I'm fine. Yeah,
that's right. It's no good. It's not room filling. Yeah, what if your room's a broom cupboard? It's fine.
Yes, exactly, precisely. Anyway, there we go. Horses for courses, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yeah. I've never been exactly what you'd call an audiophile. There we are.
Well, no, me. I mean, I'm a musician, but no, I'm not obsessive about sound quality. Not at all.
No, as long as it's not, as long as it doesn't sound like it's coming out of a broken 1960s pocket transistor radio, then it's fine, isn't it? Can you hear the words and the tune?
That's
I can hear the words and the tune. That'll do.
As if it's coming down a string, into a cup. Yeah.
But then again,
as long as it's better than that, we're fine.
Yeah, but then again, that's laughing at that. That's also considered to be a life hack, isn't it? If you're listening on your phone through the speakers, put the phone in a cup so that you get better sound.
Oh right, yeah.
Have you never heard that one?
I've never tried that.
It's actually quite good. I have been known to do it. If you put what you do, get a fairly big mug, and then if I was going to play the music from my iPhone out of the speakers, and obviously the newer ones, some comes out of the earpiece and some comes out of the speaker at the bottom. But if you put the phone into the cup or mug, large mug really, with the bottom speaker in the bottom, you will get surprisingly better sound.
Oh, it's using the phone using the mug as a soundboard, effectively.
Yeah, it's using it as a sound changer. Yeah.
Because there's a sound. So in a piano, you have a wooden panel at the back, which is a soundboard, which is doing effectively the same thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah. There we are. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on a bit.
But I'm not carrying a mug around. I'm not carrying a mug around to listen to my iPhone all the while. That look a bit silly, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen them. There's a silly novelty. I don't know if you can still get them, but certainly a few years ago, there was a silly novelty called iPhone amplifier, and it's like a silicon thing that slid over the bottom of your iPhone. Where the speakers goes, and it had like an ear trumpet / old-fashioned gramophone on it, all made out of like silicon rubber. But it was quite amusing. Yeah. Oh dear. Apple TV went live. Apple TV Plus, that is the Plus streaming service. Trumpets, clanging cymbals, rolling of drums. Meh. Cutie has, had a new iPhone on contract. And so obviously we get, as a result, 3 years access to this service, which is nice, I suppose. I took a look at it. Well, at the moment, there's 7 shows.
Yes,
That's
it's not exactly a lot, is it?
not what you'd call an avalanche of content.
No, no doubt if we were on Bart's show, he'd be saying, "Oh yes, but it's the quality they're going for."
Well, maybe, but I'm not sure that 7 TV series shows. I mean, I said in the Slack, I don't. They're going to have to pick that game up pretty damn quick. I mean, there's no where are the documentaries? Where are the music shows? Where are the, where's anything other than these sort of TV procedural shows?
Yeah, I suppose they've got a bit of time, as you say. I mean, it's a little bit like they've got like they'll have an automatic audience, won't they, for a little while anyway, because of people who have bought devices on this occasion, and that's going to be a few million, I expect.
Oh, I think that'll probably be,
yeah.
Well, actually, we'll get to the earnings call in a minute, and we'll sort of.
So the big question will be in 12 months' time when they all come to an end, how many people will stay on it? So,
well, of course, I mean, for probably over the next year, they're going to continue to giving it away. So I suppose, in theory, they've got themselves 2 years worth of audience.
Right. Yeah, I suppose that's possible.
It's sort of a rolling audience. So, but to be honest,
so I've watched a couple of episodes of C.
I watched last night. I watched the first episode of C. I really wanted to like it. It's not terrible. I found the kind of premise a little bit silly. There were parts of it. I know they're supposed to have been blind from birth, and everybody's been blind for a long time, and so their society is built around nobody being able to see. But I still felt it was a little bit silly, and I didn't think the overall background story was particularly original. It was kind of outsiders pursued by the zealot witch finders. I'll give it a chance. I will see, because as you pointed out before the show, Nick, lots of shows that have gone on to be big hits do not have the most auspicious openings. So
I'll give it a go. But at the moment, I wouldn't have paid $4.95. Is it $4.95?
$4.99 a month. No, at the minute, based on that.
I'm not sure I would have done that at this stage, based upon what I've seen.
No,
but it's early days.
Early days, but they made a big thing about all this content, and I'm sorry, 7 shows doesn't really cut it. The thing I've enjoyed most so far is there's a show called The Ghost Writer, which is basically a kids' TV, young sort of teen audience, I would guess, or pre-teen. Donny pointed out that it seems to be very similar to another program in the 90s with the same title.
Oh, right.
They both come from Sesame Workshop, so it could be that it's based around the same kind of idea. In The Ghost Writer, again, the concept's not particularly original. Kid moves to new city, makes friends when weird thing happens, and they have to find out what's going on. I've watched 3 episodes. They're only about 25 minutes long, so it's not difficult. And there's only 7 episodes in total. As long as it doesn't devolve into literary character of the week kind of format, I think I could probably. I will probably go through this. It looks like the first 2 are about Alice in Wonderland, and then there's another couple about Mowgli, and then I think 3 based around the Wild West. But I think I could stomach that.
The fact is, though, for this to be a success, they're going to need something that really takes off, aren't they? They're going to need something that everyone wants to see.
They are going to need something that's really big. I don't think C is going to be it. I'm sorry, I can't see that being the next Game of Thrones.
No, I don't think so either.
For All Mankind, I haven't watched that yet. I suspect I'm going to enjoy that, but I think that's going to probably mostly to appeal to people of a certain age, i.e. our age, who grew up
Yes.
watching that, for whom that was all a thing. Watching, Neil Armstrong take the first step on the moon and all that. That's all part of the fabric of my youth, as it were.
Indeed.
But I'm just thinking, where are the movies? Where are the documentaries? Where are the music shows? One of the things that I'm hoping is going to crop up is there was a lot of rumours that they were going to do Asimov Foundation series show.
Right. Oh, yes, there was, wasn't there? Yeah. Which sounds interesting.
That could be really, really good. Whether they could capture the general public's imagination with that, because I think a lot of people might be turned off if they're not into sci-fi the minute they see Asimov and just,
yeah. That's true.
I don't know. It could be a really good show. That could be something like Game of Thrones if they got it right.
I'll tell you what I found a little bit disconcerting. Is the way you get to it on the Apple TV. So you have to go through the Apple TV app. I just found it it wasn't immediately obvious where the content was, I didn't think.
No, that is true. I didn't really think about it. But also, like I was watching this morning, I was watching some of the shows. I watched them on my Mac, on my laptop.
Yeah.
So you go into the Apple TV, and then there's all this, the Apple TV app, and then there's all this stuff, all mixed in together, iPlayer and all sorts of things. Yes. And it was
That's right, Prime, if you've got Prime.
Yeah, Prime. There's all these shows jumbled up, and I wasn't really immediately clear how to get to just the Apple TV stuff.
No, I mean, maybe that's their purpose. Maybe they want it to be like that, but I just found it a little bit confusing. I was expecting there to be here's your Apple TV Plus stuff.
Yeah, very much so.
And I'd go in there, and there it would be. But no, it wasn't that obvious. Maybe I'm missing something.
I don't know, but see, I'm like you. I mean, obviously on my Apple TV, I've got the Amazon Prime, I've got Netflix. I never used the Apple TV app on the Apple TV.
No,
because
it never worked for us very well.
I've got Prime there. If I want to look at Prime, I'll click on Prime. If I want to look in Netflix, I'll look in there. It's almost like, no, can I just have an Apple TV Plus icon to show me? Because I don't want to go into Apple TV and then have all my Prime and Netflix and BBC and all that all jumbled in there. It's a confusing mess. There we go. I guess we'll get used to it. Obviously, I've got a year of it for free, so I'm going to probably, unless I get bored, rigid.
Yeah. So very first impressions, because I'm only taking this from watching 2 episodes of one of the programs, but very first impressions is good try, must try harder.
Yeah, mine immediately really was a bit, well, as I say, meh. If I took a 7-day trial of that, I doubt I'd be joining. I'd be going, really? I don't think that's worth a fiver of my money.
Yeah, in all honesty, though, if I was checking it out if it was costing me money, I'd obviously find more time to watch it and try out some of the other programs and that sort of thing. So
the trouble is, there's not many programs.
Well, no, but perhaps we can talk about it again in another month or so.
Oh yes,
when we've all had a chance to watch a few and
see how it
see what
develops. But for something that was so trumpeted as a launch, it was a bit of a damp squib, really, for me. I didn't open it and go, "Oh, look at all this shiny stuff." The Americans seem quite taken with the morning show thing, but that's of absolutely no interest to me whatsoever. I'd probably rather watch.
No, I've no idea what it is really, but
it's a drama about American newsroom type.
Right.
Personally, I think I'd probably rather sit down and be forced to watch endless episodes of classic Coronation Street. And that's saying something. Oh, Vera. There we are.
I saw something on Points of View earlier on about people complaining how depressing EastEnders is. And I thought, hold on a minute, isn't it meant to be depressing? It always has been, hasn't it?
Yes. I think that isn't. I've always thought isn't part of the point of these soap operas, which are always, everybody's always riven with, strife and
with angst.
Misery and angst and terrible. They've all got cancer, or their mothers have died, or their child's been hit by a bus or something. There's always something terrible going on. I thought that was half the point, is to make you feel better about your life. Even if your life isn't great, you go, well, at least it's not as bad as that.
That's right. Yeah, agreed.
There we do.
Yeah, if we have got any American listeners, I've no idea. We never talk about our listeners, do we, Simon?
No, not really.
Have we got any American listeners?
We've got.
Well, I mean, other than the ones in the Slack, of course.
Well, I don't really know, because we don't pay enough for our host for them to give us a geographic breakdown.
Okay.
But
so EastEnders is a soap, and it's and it is almost completely very depressing.
It's they're always, it is classic.
But at least it was the last time I watched it, which was probably about 10 years ago.
It's always doom and gloom. It's always, everybody's sleeping with everybody else's wives, and they're on drugs, or The one thing I do think about those shows is just amazing how quickly these people recover. I mean, poor old Phil Mitchell, he's gone from alcoholic to druggy to back to alcoholic to something else. And they get cured almost immediately when they finally go, oh, I think I've got a drink problem, and in 2 weeks they're cured, which is always really
I'm feeling better now.
Yeah. Actually, I know this is totally by the by. When it comes to soaps, mocking Coronation Street as I was, but there's a character in Coronation Street who is an alcoholic, and one thing I like about his character is that he didn't become an alcoholic and then get help and become cured. They've been running that story on and off for 20 years, and when things go bad, he has a tendency to lapse back into drinking and get into a terrible state. And
okay, at least sounds a little more realistic.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bit of a Jack the Lad and all the rest of it, but that's by the by. But I kind of applaud them for that somewhat more realistic stance, that his alcoholism is an ongoing thing which he has to contest with daily. There we go. What else? The HomePod apparently now supports multiple users, but apparently it's a buggy mess, according to VentureBeat.
Oh dear.
I don't think you or I can really have anything to say on that, because I don't have one, and I don't think you have one either, do you?
I don't.
No. Again, that's on the. It's probably lovely, but at £300, I can find something better to do with £300.
Yes, it's a shame. Apple seem to be having real problems at the moment, don't they? With bugs generally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of chat around the release of Catalina and iOS 13. And now it appears HomePod's latest update isn't.
All it's cracked up.
Yeah, this is the only trouble with companies that grow and grow and grow, and their software gets more and more and more complex. Is that eventually you end up with something that's a little bit so large that it's really difficult to keep track of.
And also, of course, I don't think sometimes people pay enough attention to the fact that Apple was effectively integrating all of its products, and that integration, people have come to expect it to be perfect, and when it's not, that disrupts your disrupts your whole ecosphere. The days of your laptop being your laptop and your phone being your phone and your TV being your TV are kind of gone.
I find it a little. Yes, that's true. I agree entirely. And I do find it a little bit frustrating when I hear people. So at one time we used to have 2 yearly updates to iOS and most things. And then they, from what I think I remember them saying, so that we're going to go to yearly ones, but we won't be doing such big changes because we'll be doing them more regularly. And now people are making excuses for them and saying, the reason there are so many bugs is because they're having to do it annually. So what do we do? Do we go back to 2 yearly, or do we go to even longer than that?
I think.
I don't know. I just feel that sometimes people are just making excuses for Apple putting out stuff that isn't quite ready.
With iOS, I think they've kind of painted themselves into a corner because it was kind of new iPhone comes with new OS every year.
Yeah,
The Mac,
maybe.
the Mac less so. I don't, nobody said you had to do a yearly OS release. You didn't
No,
used
that's
to.
true. Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm just saying that in some ways they've chosen to do this themselves.
yes,
Um,
they have.
but you may be right. It might be that they've painted themselves into a corner where they're really having to release stuff before. I mean, I work in an IT company, and um, we do have programmers, and I know it's not always easy to integrate things into complex systems. And I understand about. I mean, I think a lot of people from outside wouldn't understand that stuff has to go through. So you have to first of all work out whether that's something your customers would want. It then has to go through change control, and it has to go through a lot of stages before you actually get to the bit where you actually write code. And yeah, I just think that I think people would appreciate, in some ways, having to wait a little bit longer if Apple could get the stuff better, because they used to be able to. And it's only this time, it seems to me, that there's been a. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've not run into any problems with iOS 13, but I've heard a lot of people have.
I haven't, I mean, you know me. I live out there on the beta bleeding edge, and
Indeed. Yeah.
I have not found iOS 13 to be worse than any other OS. That doesn't mean that other people aren't having issues, because my uses are fairly straightforward. I don't
I also think, of course, it could be the numbers now.
Oh, well,
so when you put out a piece of software and you're putting it out to multi-million people, even the smallest of bugs are going to get found eventually.
Yes. Every edge case is going to come up. This is very much the case. Again, Catalina, I've had no real issues with it from day one of beta one. And I guess at home on my laptop, which is where I run it, I haven't really. Some people are saying there's issues with Adobe. Well, of course, I don't use Adobe at home. So all my Affinity apps have run perfectly well. My podcasting stuff,
for a little while you had to run off your old machine, didn't you? Because
in part, I could have worked around it, but Loopback, which allows you to virtually route audio around, was not available for the Catalina betas.
But having said that, you knew that, and I mean, this wasn't a surprise.
No, it wasn't. And what actually was a surprise was that some of the Rogue Amoeba stuff, which Paul Kafasa said, this won't work on Catalina, did work, at least for the things I wanted it to do.
Yes.
I think, to be fair, Rogue Amoeba, they don't put stuff out for the betas. They say they work on getting a product that's ready to roll on day one of a new OS, and they'd rather say this doesn't work than this might sort of work, but don't blame us if something goes horribly wrong, because people do blame you if something goes horribly wrong. So I think
that's true.
They just rather say this has got a red triangle on it, don't try and run it on the Catalina betas. Well, me being me, I did, and to a large extent it was working. But Loopback wasn't. I could have got round that, I really could, but I just waited until Loopback was available for Catalina.
Having said that, that was all before the official release, wasn't it?
Yes, it was all before the official release.
Yeah.
I mean, the day one of official release, everything on the Rogue Amoeba site was now 100% qualified for Catalina. So you can't. I never criticise anybody for not putting out something that for the betas. That's if you do that, you're effectively saying the release is when beta 1 comes out, and
which would be impractical.
Not. It's not. And as some of the other guests we've had on have said, sometimes there are huge changes between, say, beta 2 and beta 3. They will completely scrap a whole architecture and redo it. And if you're trying to build your app based on what's in the early betas, you're setting yourself up for for a big
Yeah,
problem.
that must be very frustrating, mustn't it?
Yeah. So,
I can imagine. That must be horrible.
right, damn, tear it all down and start again. Apple have changed their mind. Talking about things, I mean, iOS 13.2, iPhone users are angry as new update features strange bug affecting apps, according to the Independent.
Oh.
What I've read about this is basically that the 13.2 seems to be rather more aggressive at killing off background apps. You know how, when you close an app, it doesn't close, it just goes into the sort of sleep state in the background. And the OS will actually shut down apps that have been unused for the longest.
Oh, right, yeah.
It would appear that this is behaving rather more aggressively than it has done in the past. I've not come across it. I can't say that, I go from Twitter to Slack to, the browser and back and find that my Slack app is closed. So I don't know what apps people are saying are shutting down far quicker than they'd expect. But that apparently is what some people are saying is the case, that, they go from their browser to, I don't know, a Word document and then somewhere else. And then when they go back to their, music app, and the music app is shut. I've not suffered from that. And whether that's a bug or whether that's Apple being more aggressive in reclaiming memory, I don't know. I guess if it's upsetting people and they've dialed it up too high, then the next update they'll dial it back down again.
Dial it back down again, yes.
Dial it up, dial it down. It's one of those, isn't it? We need to reclaim more memory. Okay, we'll turn that up a bit. People are moaning. Back it off a bit. Back it off a bit. Too much, boys. Too much. Oh, dear. And of course, they had an earnings call. Q4, as they call it, 2019 earnings report. Another record-breaking quarter, apparently. Revenue up year on year, 2%, I think. Apparently, they made 33.36 billion from iPhones, 12.5 billion on services, which is, they're an ever-growing category for them.
Yeah, that's grown quite a lot, hasn't it?
That's grown massively. They
that's more than a third, isn't it, of their iPhone sales now?
It's now nearly half. Not quite, but it's certainly more than a third.
Not quite half. Yes, it's more than a third.
It's more than a third, and
grown remarkably quickly.
Remarkably. I think Tim said that he wanted to, when they first launched the services, I think he said he wanted to double the revenue by 2020, and they look like they're on course to do that, which means by the end of 2020, they're looking at, I think, 15 billion per quarter from services, which will be almost half of the iPhone. Well,
these figures are mind-bogglingly big.
Mind-bogglingly big. I mean, the Mac. People have been saying that the Mac is, nothing. It's 7 billion. 7 billion this quarter on Macs.
Yeah.
6.5 billion for wearables, home, and accessories. You would postulate that the AirPods are probably the biggest section of that. Oh, that's where they live. So they're probably the biggest portion of that, with Apple Watch not far behind, I would have thought.
Yes.
And at 4.66 billion, we have the iPad, which only seems feeble in comparison to some of their other products. I'm sure there's a lot of people would love to have a 4.6 billion per quarter business.
Oh, wow. I sometimes look at these figures and have to remind myself just how big they are. I mean, we see the word billion and we've just become a bit blasé about it now because we know that Apple make lots and lots of money. But so the Mac, 6.99 billion. So that's 6,000 million.
Put it this way.
It's a million devices 6,000 times. It's mind-boggling.
It's at 6.99 billion. That's pretty much the equivalent of $1 per person on the planet.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, indeed.
So they'll probably be all right for next year, do you think?
Yeah, I think it might be all right for them. They should get past Christmas anyway.
Well, that's all right then.
They're forecasting for the next quarter $85 to $89 billion in revenue.
God, dearie me.
With a gross margin of 37.5% to 38.5%.
That's amazing.
It's, yeah, I mean, the numbers are just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So yeah, I like you say, that's a bit. Apple made all the money again, and
yes,
I think Tim probably will be all right for sending out Christmas cards. I don't think he's going to be short.
No, maybe not. So sort out the blooming accounts, Apple.
Yeah, definitely.
If you got all that money, sort them out.
Sort them out. I think that might be the show title. Sort out your bleeding accounts. Right. Oh dear. Well, I'll tell you what, Nick, I think that's pretty much all of the Apple news. So, shall we just get a fresh cup of tea while we go over to John? And we'll be back and have a look at the other smaller stories of the week in about 5 minutes. So, over to you, John.
We've been reviewing a lot of USB-C adapters here on Nemo's hardware store, but they've all been for the new Mac computers, the MacBook Pro laptops, and the MacBooks with USB-C. Well, our friends at Kenex, or Kenex, K-A-N-E-X, have something called the iAdapt 6-in-1 multi-port USB-C docking station for iPad Pro, the new one, the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch second generation. Costs $100 in the U.S. It is extremely well designed and engineered and very clever. When you first look at it, you think they forgot to build it. But when you realize it literally clamps to the side of your iPad, it sort of tucks in to the upper right-hand corner of your iPad. You'll have to see the link and the photos on our show notes here at Essential Apple to turn your iPad Pro into a portable workstation. Works with or without Apple Smart Keyboard Folio. Adjust the thickness with the supplied bumper. This is really clever, so you can use it with or without a case. It's about 1 inch wide, 3 inches long, 3/4 inch thick. It has a short 6-inch cable with a USB-C on one end that plugs into the USB-C on your beautiful new iPad Pro. And then around the frame of the housing, you've got an audio port, headphone port they call it, a USB-C port, another one to help you with power transfer, an SD and a micro SD card, and an HDMI port. So this is really useful. Then around on the top, there's a USB 3 port. So literally everything you need to turn your iPad Pro, as they say, into a portable workstation is right here on the Kenex or Kenex iAdapt 6-in-1 multi-port USB-C docking station. You've spent a lot of money on your amazing new iPad Pro, and the people at Kenex have really got ahead of the game by a beautifully crafted, gorgeously designed, and extremely versatile and useful multi-port dock that will extend the range and the use of your iPad Pro in many, many ways. Because you know who you are, you iPad Pro users, and this is exactly what you've been looking for. $100 or whatever it is in your local currency is exceptional value for the usefulness you will get from this product. The website is kenex.com, KANEX.com/USB-C-iPad-docking-station. Or just do a search for Kenex 6-in-1 multi-port USB-C docking station, and it will come up. So check this out and keep listening to Essential Apple and Nemo's Hardware Store every week for the latest and greatest tech gear, otherwear, underwear, overwear, and you know what wear for the hardware that you have purchased and you love so much. Back next week.
Thank you, John. And of course, all the links, as usual, will be in the show notes. And of course, if you'd like to buy anything from Amazon, whether it's one of the products we mention on this show or not, if you want to help the show, if you go over to the website, press the big red Amazon affiliate button and do your shopping, we will get a small kickback, which is always nice. Yes, which we can use to pay for hosting and the website and all that sort of thing. Thank you very much. So, after all that, my daughter's issues with the Apple TV are still ongoing. In the break, she texted me saying it's locked the account again and told me the password is no good. So I've attempted to unlock it and it's misbehaving. When it says, use your phone to unlock it, it's only flashing up the message from Apple, and it's not. I'm not, getting a chance to tap on it. Basically, as we were saying in the break, Nick and I, if you're going to tie everything to your Apple ID, the one thing that really, really, really needs to be absolutely a rock-solid service is your bloody verification server. Thank you. Definitely.
This message has been brought to you
by a very angry parent. Yeah. Well, I think that may well end up being the title of the show. Fix the ID servers, Apple. You've got plenty of money. You've made all that money. Spend a bit. Right. Okay, well, that's enough of the Apple stuff. Moving on. Last week, Steve, despite the internet breaking down, Steve and I were talking about this Google's quantum computer. About how they said that it had proved that quantum computing was real. IBM, according to Wired, have said that's not so. Right? Google claimed its researchers had achieved quantum supremacy. IBM says Google have rigged the test. Technical quarrels between... between quantum...
They're counting it wrong.
Yeah, you're counting it wrong. Technical quarrels between quantum computing experts rarely escape the field's rarefied community. Late Monday, though, IBM's quantum team picked a highly public fight with Google. IBM took aim at a potentially history-making scientific results, which were apparently accidentally leaked, according to this. The draft paper claimed Google had reached a milestone dubbed quantum supremacy. Big Blue's quantum PhDs say Google's claim was flawed. IBM said Google had essentially rigged the race by not tapping into the full power of modern supercomputers. The threshold has not been met. It will take time for the quantum research community to dig through IBM's claim and responses from Google. Louisiana State University say IBM appear to have some merit. Google picked a problem that they thought to be really hard on a classical machine, but IBM has demonstrated the problem is not as hard as Google thought it was.
I think the whole point of quantum computing is that it's supposed to be significantly better.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about. Sorry, I just hit my microphone then because I was swatting at a fly.
After
it suddenly appeared in front of my screen.
After your little halftime quote story, which was quite funny, wasn't it? Tell the listeners about that story, because that actually now ties in quite nicely with you clocking your microphone there.
Which story was that?
The one about the phone going ping.
Oh yes. Yes, well, so we had a concert at church on Friday, which was we were raising money for the church organ, and so I played a couple of pieces, but we also had two male voice choirs, and at the end they got together and they were singing. One of them was a local male voice choir, and the other one was from Wales, and they were both singing a medley of American folk music. And they were singing "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah," and it just got to one point where they just finished singing "Hallelujah," and someone's phone in the audience went ping in exactly the same key and exactly at the right point in between the phrases. It couldn't have been choreographed better. It made me giggle. I don't think anyone else heard it, but it made me giggle anyway.
Yeah, there we go. What else is they saying here? One of IBM's top quantum researchers and co-author of the paper says he expects it to influence whether Google's claims gain acceptance or not. Despite the provocative way in which IBM have chosen to air its technical concern, he claims the company's motivation is primarily to head off unhelpful expectations around the term of quantum supremacy. We are not attempting to antagonize Google. When I read this, I have to say I got a certain impression that to some extent IBM were defending their supercomputer and saying actually it could do a lot better than Google got out of it.
All right.
Then it goes on. Basically, there's a guy at the end here, Chris Munro of University of Maryland. His company is more interested in demonstrating the practical uses for early quantum hardware than academic disputes about. We're not going to lose much sleep, he says.
So it's not so much quantum supremacy as quantum snobbery, then.
Possibly. Yeah, I got a certain impression from this that IBM are trying to not so much say Google's quantum leap wasn't right, but that you've dissed our supercomputer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that you know our supercomputer could have done a lot better. Actually,
but I mean, the important thing is though is if breakthrough is real, well, then quantum computers will become a real thing, and they will push on the power of computers.
I think
the important thing.
I think the important point, really, to some extent, is whether or not it's quantum supremacy or, you know, it was as good as Google claim or, you know, whatever. I think the main thing that was demonstrated last week was that they made a quantum computer work.
Yeah.
Because that's always been, prior to that, it's been pretty theoretical.
Yes, that's right.
And, you know, there was always this sort of concern that when you get to a certain number of qubits, will the uncertainty basically bring the whole thing crashing down to its roots? Anyway, there we go. Academics fact.
Is that a little bit like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy lifts all ending up sulking in the basement?
Yes, pretty much, I think, yeah.
Because when they realised all they'd got to do is go up and go down, they just became depressed.
Yeah. Or as Marv would have it, you and your bloody cheerful have a nice day. All you have to do is open and go and ping and close. I've got the brain the size of a planet. You don't know how hard it is. There we are. So, moving on from that one, that appears to be as much a, you know, professional pride / academic spat as
yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
It doesn't really. They haven't actually said. I mean, they haven't actually said either that that what Google have done isn't valid. What they've said is they can't claim quantum supremacy, which seems like quibbling over. You know what I mean? They're quibbling over the semantics here, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit like saying, "Well, I'm sorry, your car doesn't do 100 miles an hour, therefore it's not a valid car."
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, there we are. Microsoft unveiled a new Edge browser logo. Woo!
Wow.
Which no longer looks like the Internet Explorer logo of old.
What does it look like then?
It's a new logo to go with their new, you know, soon to be launched Chromium-based browser. And it's a sort of blue wave, you know, curling over like a surfer's tunnel kind of logo.
It does look a bit like a sea as well, doesn't it?
Sort of. I must admit, though, the first thing I thought when I saw it was, did you get the artist who did the Mozilla icons to do this? Because it's terribly reminiscent of the Firefox.
Oh, that's true. It is, yes. It's got that sort of same squirreliness about it.
Yes. And yes, it does sort of make a lowercase e. Other than that, my thoughts were, and... you know, what the icon looks like, you know, is it really that important? It no longer looks like the E with the planet going round it, really?
Yeah.
Well, where we are.
Sometimes, you know, people make a big thing about changing logos and whatever. And my impression is often what yours is when you look at it, you think, really? And sometimes they have, you know, really have a big voting thing where you can put in your own ideas and it might, I don't know, say the thing is called Turbo, and in the end they just have a colourful turbo written. You think,
Yeah.
well, really, it's taken all that time to come up with that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's very much.
It's quite nice looking. It's all right. I'll give them that.
It's a nice enough looking logo. It's reminiscent. I just thought, it's reminiscent of a lowercase e, and it's somewhat reminiscent of the style of the Mozilla icons. Other than that, I have nothing else to say on the matter. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
actually,
it's
if
not
you
really.
scroll down that page, there's a picture of the new AirPods. Don't you think they look a bit like hair dryers?
Yeah. Well, I just, to be honest, I thought the old ones did as well to some extent.
Well, I suppose they do. They've got a long, a shank, haven't they? And then
it's more the body, the shape of the body that kind of reminded me of a hairdryer more than the
hairdryer.
Yeah, there we are. What else have we
Sorry,
got?
that's derailed the conversation completely.
Well, why not? I mean, the rest of the show's been all over the shop. Why should we stop now? Google are buying Fitbit for, I forget, quite a lot of, some billions, which is good for Fitbit because, as far as I can tell, Fitbit have not been doing too well.
Right, okay.
Android police say buying Fitbit won't save Google's failing Wear OS. But I'm not going to go into that really. But I mean, it's all about Fitbit have not been doing as so well of late. They've
not
sold
really very
themselves...
surprising because we've got lots of other gizmos, including the Apple Watch, which give us lots and lots of fitness information these days.
Yes, and do much more.
Yes.
And the Android police, they're not particularly keen on Google's Wear OS either. They think that that's not as good as it ought to be.
I rather like the Apple advert actually for the watch recently, which says "and it tells the time."
And it
tells
the time. Really that was actually
quite clever.
Yes. Look at this watch.
Yeah,
it tells
good.
the time. It does other things as well. Tells the time amongst other things. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because to a large extent, it's a bit like our phones, which making a phone call is now probably a long way down the list of things that it gets used for. And I think most people's Apple Watches telling the time is, probably one of the least important functions that it does for most people. Not for me.
Yes,
I use it so I can tell the time, to be honest. But that's another matter.
I do quite a lot as well. Yeah.
So I don't really know. I mean, it would seem that Google, are buying Fitbit to acquire, talent and possibly, I suppose, Fitbit, users. The Wear OS has not been doing particularly well, I don't think. Even, Google supporting people don't seem particularly impressed with it. So
yeah, I mean, quite a lot of Apple quite often does this, doesn't it? It buys the intellectual property rather than the device itself.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think they're buying it because they want to buy Fitbits per se. I think they're buying it because they want to bring possibly merge together, the talent and in an attempt to improve their Wear OS for their own devices.
That's right, and that's good for us all. So.
Well, it is good for us all because it's never great if you have, if the only game in town realistically is the Apple Watch. We might choose to have the Apple Watch, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have somebody nipping at their heels.
No, absolutely. And let's face it, a lot of the changes that Apple make whenever they have a release, the Android fanboys would say, "Oh, you're just playing catch up. We've already got that," and it's true. They probably have, but the fact is that's the purpose of having two different companies that are doing two different things.
Precisely.
Is that it drives that innovation.
And they steal off each other or, leapfrog each other, if you will. No,
that's
competition is good. Competition, realistically, you need at least two viable, competing ecosystems to drive the thing forward.
Yes, that's right. Keeps everyone on their toes.
definitely, very much so. We've seen it happen a lot of times in tech where somebody becomes effectively the dominant player, and then they become fat and lazy, and then they've got no one to keep them on their toes. There's not a lot more, Nick, and we've been going quite a while, but this one is from Forbes. Now, I don't like Forbes because they seem to be one of those negative companies, bunches of writers out there. They often, even in a completely unrelated article, will attempt to stick the boot into Apple. They seem to have, for some reason, they've got some people who are very pro Linux. Not that I've got a problem with that. But this one is Windows Blue Keep attack that US government warned about is happening right now. And this is basically a vulnerability in older versions of Windows. So we're talking XP and 7, Vista, Server 2008, those sort of things. Now, for us for most of us home users, that's like who on earth is using this stuff? But of course, as we know, those kind of older OSs are often propping up all sorts of infrastructure.
Yes, certainly for companies. Yeah.
Yes, and let's face it, sorry to tell you this, everybody in the world, but most of the ATMs, are Windows XP underneath.
Yes.
They really are. And that sort of technology, often takes a long, long time to, go away. Microsoft themselves have twice warned users to update vulnerable Windows systems. These appear to have gone unheeded in enough numbers to warrant an escalation on update alerts. The National Security Agency, NSA of the US, took an unusual step of publishing an advisory urging Microsoft Windows administrators to update their operating system or risk devastating and wide-ranging impact. The US government, via the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, issued an Update Now activity alert. Now, by the way, they're not, because of the sort of infrastructure we're talking about, they're not actually saying here, drop Windows XP and go to Windows 10, or what they're talking about is update to the patched versions, which will prevent this Blue Keep exploit. So,
right.
Yeah, they're not actually saying you need to get a new version of Windows. What it says here: if you are using one of the vulnerable versions of Windows, what more is it going to take to get you to apply the update which will fix this vulnerability? I'd have thought a wormable exploit, even if it hasn't been wormed yet, which vampires your system resources or crashes your machine, was warning enough. But what do we know? So in that one, yes, no. This is not a get rid of your old stuff and buy shiny new, stuff from Microsoft. This is, please, for the good of everybody, could you apply the security update that Microsoft are urging you to apply, please, for everybody's sake? There we go. So actually, for once, a story from Forbes I can applaud and not go boo, hiss, boo. Very unusual.
You'd be surprised how difficult it can be sometimes for a company to apply patches. I work, I think I've said before, I work for a water company in their IT department, and the guy sits next to me has been desperately chasing down laptops that haven't connected to the network for quite a while to get them upgraded. And he's having such difficulty doing it because the type of business we have, people are often out on fairly remote sites. They have no internet connection, and they may have a laptop they were given, but they might not have touched it for 6 months. And just keeping stuff up to date is a constant battle for even fairly small companies.
Yep, that is true. That is true. However, they don't explain in that article exactly where these systems are being deployed. But I would, from the sound of it, if the National Security Agency and the US Cyber Security Force or whatever are concerned, I would assume that they are systems that run,
important stuff,
important things like water distribution or electricity or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, things that you would think probably could be patched rather more simply. What else have we got on the security side? the encrypted email service Proton Mail, my mail of choice, is open sourcing its mobile apps. This is on VentureBeat. They are open sourcing their mobile apps at the moment. That's iOS. The Android ones will be apparently open sourced very shortly when they have finished doing whatever it is they need to finish doing before they open source them. Go over and read about it. It's a good thing. This is apparently being done so that everybody can see how their Proton Mail works. And that there can be 1,000 eyes viewing the code, not just thing, and it's considered a big thing in the security world.
Yeah, sounds good.
And apparently they had an external security audit, and only 7 minor things were found, which have now been changed, which is good. They could look good. I like that. And then this one's on digital trends. This is quite strange. This invisible photo filter protects you from facial recognition software, which is a slightly misleading title, to be honest. What this service has been developed by some ex-Israeli security people. And what it does, it says machines are getting increasingly impressive at recognizing things. An Israeli company has developed smart software which promises to help crack down on facial recognition technology being used against people in ways they may not be happy about. What it says is, by replacing faces in videos or still images with nearly identical looking photorealistic portraits, these faces look virtually indistinguishable from the real person to fellow humans, but are not identifiable by facial recognition technology. Now, there's a picture here, yes, of the original person and then a de-identified one. Its main purpose, by the way, when you kind of read the article, is not to defend yourself as such, but it's aimed at allowing companies to take videos or bunches of photographs or whatever and analyze it for whatever it is they need to analyze. But if they run it through this software, all of the faces will be replaced with these AI generated facsimiles, which cannot be identified because they are just machine, even though they look to you and me the same as the original people.
Same. Yeah.
So effectively what they're saying, researchers can take video, I don't know, of just a load of people walking down the street, for example, and then run it through this software, which will replace all the faces with AI-generated faces, and then they can use it to do whatever they're doing because none of the people can be identified with facial recognition software.
That's clever, isn't it?
It's clever, yeah. So the headline is somewhat well. I mean, it's true, but it doesn't do. That's not its point. The best way to do it is to go and read it because it's it's not the easiest thing to describe. The pictures are quite. There's a little video in here saying removing, personally identifying information and other facial features. And there's a couple of pictures which, you'd have to study really, really hard to see that they weren't the same person, I think. Yeah. Intriguing. I was intrigued by that. It's not when it says protecting you from facial recognition software. It's not something you can use yourself. It is something that people are using so that they cannot be accused of using facial recognition software. There's a sort of for analysts and whatnot to use, and therefore say no, we can't identify anybody because we ran it through this software. What else? That's probably pretty much it. Oh, the snippet. I came across this one on The Verge. A critical analysis of scroll bars throughout history. A 30-year visual history of scroll bars.
Well, someone's got plenty of time on their hands.
It's actually quite a quite a fun little article showing you basically the evolution of scroll bars. Quite nice. That is just a snippet.
Clever.
Quite an interesting little thing. Vivaldi have released or will be releasing, I believe, version 2.9. That's their browser with a whole load of changes to the menu architecture, allowing customizable menus and whatnot, at least on Windows and Linux. I'm not sure about the Mac, and a load of other changes. So if you're into Vivaldi, you could go check that out. It's a very nice browser. And I've got a link here to an affordable Apple Pencil rival on the cult of Mac. Cheaper than an Apple Pencil, but it doesn't necessarily work with every piece of software out there. So you pays your money and you takes your choice, I think. Overall, I thought sounded like quite an interesting piece of hardware.
When did they introduce the Apple Pencil? So I've got an iPad Pro, the first one, the 13-inch one. I don't think that works with the Apple Pencil. I think it was after that, wasn't it?
Well, a Pro, all the Pros work with the Pencil.
Do they?
Hmm.
Even the very first one.
I'm pretty sure that was that, because that was the whole point. I'm pretty sure, because the whole thing is that you can.
Right. Yeah, you may be right.
The difference is that
only. Never bothered buying one.
Well, no, I mean, unless you're in, unless you're into
anyway.
If you're into unless you're into sketching or whatever, or
yeah,
a lot of people go, oh well, it's good for writing notes. Sorry, a 20p pencil and a 99p piece, reporter's pad will take notes. Thank you. I don't need to spend £1,000 on an iPad Pro and another £100 on a pencil. Don't get me wrong. If the pencil, if you if you sketch or draw or do any number of other things, I'm sure is a fabulous tool.
Yeah. So this alternative is $70.
This alternative is
so at the bottom pricing
$69.99.
$69.99.
There's two. There's the pencil. They've got there's various. They've got various here. Let me get to the bottom.
The Logitech Crayon $69.99.
Yes, the Note Plus, which is the one they're suggesting. Adenit Note Plus, suggested retail price of basically $70.
Right.
And a replacement.
And the original Adenit Note was $50.
Yes, but that doesn't have. It doesn't have.
Without pressure
has no pressure sensitivity or tilt detection. Best for note taking, but it's only $50. Yes. I have to say, for the same price, you could buy a Logitech Crayon, which does not have pressure sensitivity. But I'm pretty sure because that was sanctioned by Apple, probably works on more devices.
Yeah.
Whatever, pays your money and you take your choice.
Indeed.
I have to say it does look like quite a nice stylus if you like that sort of thing. I mean, it's competing with the Apple Pencil and the Apple Pencil 2, which of course are both $100 or more. So could be a viable alternative for some people. There we go. That's on the Cult of Mac. That one. So that's their review, and I think we're probably done. So after all that, Nick, tell the people where you can be found.
You can find me on Twitter occasionally at Spligosh, SPLIGOSH. And occasionally I'm on Bart's show as well over at Let's Talk Apple.
Yep. I will be on Bart's show, which is recording Monday. So, look out for that, people. And it quite likely be out before this show because he does a very, simple edit while I faff about with this show. And yes, you can find me, of course, on the Twitters as at Serenak, and that's SERENAK. The show is at Essential Apple. Stuff on the website at essentialapple.com. As I say, we have had a couple of articles on there recently, so if you haven't been over recently, go over and take a look. No new reviews. I'm not going to get into doing that every week, but no, if you'd like to write us a review, we would be very pleased to receive it. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the slackers.
Even if it's only, who is this Bligosh guy anyway?
Yeah. What a pair of Muppets. 1 star. There we go. Where was I? Thank you to all the slackers. Thank you to everybody in the Slack room. Without whom half these stories wouldn't, be dug up. Don't forget, Mac Jim has his Flickr group. Link in the show notes if you're interested in, photography. What else? If you want to join the Slack, follow the link in the show notes. And And I think that's probably about it. Thank you to everybody who supports the show, of course, by Patreon or Pinecast Tips Jar, or in other ways, just tweeting out when we put out shows, or telling other people this show is not complete rubbish, that sort of thing. And I think that's enough of us. I think there's enough. I think I should shut up and end the show. So until next week, Nick and I will say goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say, if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com, and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchot's and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Hi, I'm Bart Bouchotz, host of the Let's Talk Apple podcast. Every month I gather together a panel of Apple followers and we digest the month's Apple news. Our aim is to step back and take a 40,000-foot view of all things Apple. We're the perfect complement to the many great daily news shows out there. Listen and subscribe at www.lets-talk.ie.
This has been the Essential Apple podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to you joining us again another time. Until then, goodbye.